Okay. Good evening, all. I want to call the Hopkinton Town Council meeting of October 19th, 2020 to order. I want to make a statement that there were no votes taken in our executive session tonight. I would like to have a moment of silent meditation and salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Let me see here, 378. 607. Okay, first up on our agenda is to the introduction of the new Charahoe Regional School District Superintendent, Gina Picard. Gina, are you out there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you. Nice to have you. I appreciate your time tonight. I know it was short notice, but the majority of the current council is retiring. So we've been vested in Charahoe for many, many years, and we wanted to meet you and see where you're from and what your thoughts about starting the new position after Barry has passed. So without any further ado, please just give us a general overview of where you came from and what your thoughts are about starting at Charahoe.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here this evening. So far, I've been here since June 18th, and I've loved every minute of it. As you know, during the pandemic, it's definitely allowed all of us to take a different look and a different lens on all the work of not just the state, but our individual communities. And it was definitely a long summer as we planned to reopen schools with the safety and of our staff and students at the top of mind. But with it's truly a take a village with the help of everybody within all three towns and all of our teachers, our administrators, and our families. We were very proud to have a very successful reopen. So I'm very proud of the work that everyone did together. But a little about me, I like Barry, actually. I'm from North Providence. Barry was also a graduate of North Providence High School, as am I, so some comparisons there. I definitely will tell you those are large shoes to fill. So what I can promise is that I will be someone who, is very transparent. I'm a communicator. I'm a listener. I think feedback is important. I don't think we always get things right. I think it's important to own when you make a mistake and and then learn from those mistakes, as a true educator would always do. I've graduated from University of Rhode Island with my master's degree in educational leadership, and I have 2 degrees from Rhode Island College, one in a master's in reading and one Bachelor of Science in elementary education with a background in English. So I've been an educator for over 23 years now. I'm also a facilitator for the National Institute for School Leadership, which has allowed me to really be a thoughtful educator around unpacking research to ensure that, it's not about my idea or what's best for myself. It's about what's best for students first and foremost, and really anchoring to the research to ensure that what we put in front of our faculty, our students, is really appropriate, and that we build from a strong foundation, which Charahoe has. The facilities, I have to say, it's definitely a testament to all 3 communities that we are a district that was able to do the reopening because of the investment in the schools, and that the careful consideration of all 3 towns is definitely one that doesn't go unnoticed. And when many superintendents continue to reach out to ask, how are you able to do this reopening? It's because of the community support around the facilities, around the work, and it was truly a team effort. But I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has anything specific.
Well, I'm sure we do. Who wants to start from Ms. Picard?
Actually,
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Barbara Capelbo.
I was wondering if you could let any of the people that are listening in also let us all know what you are doing to keep the children safe. How are you organizing your school days and the school work week? Is that virtual, in-person, part one, part another. We know, because some of us do not have children, so I'm not sure what you have done to help keep all of our children in our town safe and educated. Could you just give us
That's
an
a great
overview
question.
of that?
Oh, no, that's a great question. So again, with the planning, we had over 65 members of the reopening team over the summer, which included many subcommittees. So the plan, since the first day of school opened, all our elementary students, K through 5, were in person every day if they chose to be. And then we did a slow roll into middle school that first week of school. So if they wanted to be in person, the first 2 days, grade 5 was in, and then we added a grade in middle school every day that week. So by the end of week 1, we had all students pre-K through 8 in school that wanted to be in person. We did the high school as a slow rollout with what we call a hybrid model, which was distance learning on Monday, and then by the letter of your last name in the alphabet, you were assigned to 2 days. And that allowed us, because of our largest population, to review the policies and protocols in place around social distancing, spacing, passing hallways, unloading and loading of buses, cafeterias, to take a look at our protocols. After week 1, we invited the state education outreach team to view our partial plan with the high school to ensure that we were ready for a full reopen for the high school, because as you can imagine, in the high school, it's not a stable pod because of the sheer way that the high schools are designed around scheduling, and they do need to go class to class, as they could be in a CTC class or and then together in a different class with English. So it was harder to maintain that. So we do have a mask wearing policy, which is something the school committee approved. While there is an executive order to wear a mask, we wanted to ensure that we knew from the science and from all of the guidance that mask wearing was the number one way to mitigate transmission. So we require masks of all staff and students all day. There are opportunities for students to go outside to take mask breaks, and they will be more than 6 feet away from one another to do so. They obviously take off their masks when they're having lunch, and again, appropriate spacing is maintained per the CDC guidance. So we opened our high school to a full reopening on September 28th. And we've been in a full reopening since then. We have been very lucky with our COVID cases. In our community, we've had 3 cases at the high school, all with either no contact tracing or 1 to 2 people that were affected in a contact trace. And then our first one was where there was no students present. So we've been able to really ensure with our protocols that we're doing the best possible. We're asking staff and families to do a daily self-check. So what that means is every day they assess themselves within the last 24 hours to ensure that they meet the criteria, no fever, no cough. There's a list of things they attest to before they arrive to school that day. We had about 75% of our families request to come in person when school opened. So we knew that we had communities that were looking forward and wanted us to be back in person. But again, we had to make sure we had the right air exchanges. The other thing we recently did was we went with an engineering company who assessed all of our facilities for the winter months so we can prepare on what that will look like. Right now, many of our classrooms have the windows open to allow for additional air exchange per the ventilation guidance given to us by RIDE. And what we've been doing now is preparing for the colder months as we put on heat. So Hope Valley is actually one of the schools that will require HEPA filters in the majority of classrooms as we close windows. And doing that will allow us, one, to help mitigate any concerns with the COVID-19 virus, as well as ensure once we put the heat on and close the windows, as we still let in that cool air through our dampers and our unit ventilators on our buildings, that we don't overstress our heating system. So the HEPA filters will also allow the temperature control on top of the support our air exchanges to mitigate the COVID-19 concerns. But I'm trying to think if there's, right now we're in the process of getting ready for quarter 2 for middle school and high school and CALA registration. And basically what that means is parents have the option now to make a change to their registration, so they can either opt into distance learning or opt out of distance learning. We've received about 96 responses as of today, where about 90 of our families want to return who were distance learners, and about 7 want to go to distance learning and be removed from in-person learning. So we're allowing for an additional opportunity to make changes now that we've had school open for over a month.
I think that sounds really beneficial because you're being able to balance both the family's needs and the needs of the school. So I thank you for that. I think that's quite wonderful. I think you're taking good care of them all. What is also going to be happening with sports? I know a lot of kids will be missing it, and I don't know which sports are continuing and which ones will not be. Do you have any information on that?
Yes, there's actually a lot of conversations happening with the Rhode Island Interscholastic League and the Department of Health, along with the Superintendent's Association, to determine high-risk sports versus low-risk sports versus risks. For example, right now we are running soccer, we are running cross-country, we are running, I'm sorry, not cross-country, track and field, and girls tennis. So that's going very, very well. We have in Charahoe purchased athletic masks for all of our students to ensure they had the appropriate gear when they did play physical activity. Right now, the Interscholastic League is reviewing the plan for what winter sports will be allowed. We have moved football to the spring so far. We're not sure if there'll be any additional changes, as the information changes daily based on the Department of Health, the Governor's Office, and the Interscholastic League. But right now we're in review of what sports could we add based on the current guidance. And I know they're being really thoughtful and careful right now with an uptick in cases. So we expect to hear more about that within the next couple of weeks.
Will you hear more about basketball and baseball? Those were two you hadn't mentioned, or gymnastics.
Yes, basketball is currently being reviewed. Because there's a comparison to that in soccer. The issue with basketball is being an indoor sport, which is not as easy to handle as the outdoor sports. So they have not made a determination if they're moving forward yet with basketball. And
what about baseball, softball? I'm assuming wrestling.
Baseball and softball, because they're spring sports, they're waiting on more of that timeline to come forward. They're sort of taking it small season by season. So now those sports that I mentioned that were allowed were truncated. We play the games on Saturday. Instead of doing a full season, there's about 6 to 7 games, and who and how we compete looks a little bit different, even with our spectators. Our visiting teams are given 2 tickets. We have someone who monitors that every athlete has only 2 people that enter, and that they're wearing masks and do the daily, and they're affirming to the check of the daily check for the medical reasons. So it really is a sort of slow go with the athletics, and they're doing it to ensure that we learn from the sports. But as we get to indoor sports, it definitely gets a little bit more complicated.
Thank you. I won't be asking about theater and chorus and band because I assume that's still going to be a bit of a difficulty. But I'm glad you're moving forward as well as you can to allow all of the extracurricular activities to continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Scott, do you have anything for Ms. Picard?
Yes, welcome to Charahoe, Superintendent Picard. Scott Billhurst, Vice President of the Hopkinton Town Council, and Charahoe class of 1971, a long time ago, 50 years next year. When I was in high school, the Future Farmers of America was my biggest thing. And, but anyways, my question, I do want to point out before I go on that my colleague Sylvia Thompson, Councilman Ron Newman in Richmond, Councilman Brian McEwen in Westerly. In fact, Brian McEwen and I graduated the same year, 1971. So you have a few council members that are Charahoe graduates, and I don't know how many. And also I'm a URI man. One of I want to salute you because I think it's very important with this pandemic that people are craving for a return to normalcy. And I think the fact that you're opening the schools is a very good step in that. And I want to publicly say that. I know that pandemic is a serious thing, but just to do what you have done to open it up, I think is a very good sign to the community. And I thank you for that. And I thank the people responsible for that. I will ask just on one program, I think it's very important to have children who have learning disabilities. They might have a math block or they might have a reading block or whatever. And I just hope, what are your plans to help those children that maybe need some remedial help in education? And I won't ask any other further questions. Thank you.
No, that's a great question. So as you know, I think everyone was concerned about what the learning looked like in the spring, and were we making progress? Were our children making progress? We just finished our beginning of the year screenings for mathematics and for English language arts. And what we're doing now is sort of creating individualized plans for not just our students who have special needs, but anybody who's showing a gap in that learning. We did see a slip with more students than typical, but nothing that can't be sort of reviewed and revisited to ensure they're on the correct path. I'm a believer in focus on acceleration. So instead of thinking about it as, how do you sort of fill or remediate, think about it in a way as, if I'm coming into the 5th grade, what do I need to be able to do, and how do I plan to add those skills necessary so that they're successful and I accelerate their learning, as opposed to try to reteach something in the 4th grade, really capitalize on what the need is for 5th grade so they can push forward and that we can be thoughtful as we plan. So our teachers are doing a great job with that. They're all, actually this week, lots of what we call response to intervention meetings, really thinking about what's the plan and how are we going to monitor those students and monitor their progress to ensure that they're growing. And all of our principals are involved in that work, along with our teachers, and their families are a part of that conversation.
Okay.
Welcome aboard again.
Thanks, Scott and Barbara.
Thank you so much.
Frank?
Yes, Sharon, go ahead.
Frank?
Yep.
Can I talk now?
Go ahead.
Okay. I have 4 questions. Number 1, you said that you had 3 COVID cases at the high school, but I think one of them, or maybe all 3, were not students.
Correct. None of them were students.
No students, okay. And then you said that that the kids that are in athletics, they're wearing athletic masks. Are they KN95 masks, or what designates them as an athletic mask?
So they have a certain amount of layers. It allows them the flexibility, so it stays a little tighter around their nose to ensure that it has the gear to be able to stay on their face when they're moving, as opposed to if you're still. But they're not N95. N95, what they ask us to do is actually only use those for our medical professionals and to safeguard that for things like the nurse. But with the nurses for the masks for the athletics are multi-layered and provide the athlete with the ability to move around and be active while making sure the mask remains on their face.
Okay. Wait, let me finish them. Okay. And then I wanted to know if you would be open to a management review. We have made those suggestions to the school committee, and especially since you're new and the director of finance is new, would you be open to considering having an independent management review to help you determine ways to improve on where Cherry Hill is right now?
Well, I mean, that's definitely, that would be for the school committee as a final sort of approval. But I think what you mentioned is the most important thing is sort of thinking about, as a school district, our return on our investment. Right now, we're, as you know, preparing for our budget season. And in the midst of the pandemic, what my thinking is always about, how do you ensure that there's the highest level of efficiencies and the best return on investment? I have shared with the principals and our administrative team John Hattie's work. It's called Visible Learning. It's been around for a long time with education, and really in education, I'm sure, as you know, the highest level of budget is around your professional capital and your salaries. So really thinking about how you impact your district and are you getting the return on investment as it relates to your professional capital. And when you do need to make those shifts and changes, are you making them in the areas that will benefit students so that the conversation is, truly about the return on investment? I'm always looking for efficiencies, and I think to do that is really thinking about looking at the district's data, looking at the salary schedules, looking at your overall professional capital work, as well as how we are showing and planning for our at-risk students or our advanced placement. So there's a lot of things that go into that, I'm sure, as you know, but I think my ultimate conversation always is a review of the district every day, not just, budget season, but are we always doing things that are in the best interest and make the most sense and are efficient for our schools?
And then the last question is, have there been savings due to the distance learning in, budget savings?
The savings for distance learning would come in things like when the buses don't move, things like that. Obviously, I'm not sure if you're in receipt of the letter. I sent a letter to the governor explaining that we've been open, and as many of you know, the funding that has been presented to schools sunsets in December. So what we're looking to do is make sure that we are very transparent with the governor about our needs for January to June to be able to maintain what she calls and what we call a full reopen. The savings really was just around busing because they didn't travel, right? They weren't rolling along the streets. However, you're still employed your teachers, which is again your highest level with the budget, which is why there's not much savings. But what you would save on is your facilities needs, right? If you're not running and putting lights on and things like that. But there wasn't a giant cost saving.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Sylvia, any questions for Ms. Picard?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Have you needed to have more buses on the road because of the virus?
So right now, we're utilizing the same number of buses that we had used last year, with the difference being that we're not running late buses. So the buses that we use at the middle school and high school for extracurricular after-school activities, we needed to be able to do our regular runs. So that was a change. We haven't had to add, however, in the letter I wrote to the governor, should the guidance remain the same for busing, and just to make sure everyone's aware, the guidance on the busing is that you cannot have any more than 36 individuals on the bus. They must be wearing masks. They must be spaced. So that's not even 50% of some of the buses, which has been a very difficult challenge with Charahoe being a regional district. As you know, people are coming from all around. And it's not feasible to say to our family, well, you can walk to school. So, we offer transportation. We are asking families who can opt to drive to please do that and opt out of transportation to allow those who truly need it access. The interesting thing about that is with the second registration, our middle school and high school buses are almost at capacity. Some are at capacity and some are very close. So if we see an influx of families that want to ride the bus, we will have to revisit our opening plan for middle school and high school to think about what that will look like. Because if everyone wanted to come back and need a bus, it would require us to get 3 additional buses, which would be an additional $170,000 for the district.
Thank you. I had heard from actually a couple of residents, and their comment to me, and this was, I don't know, maybe a month or two back, when, and let me just ask you to respond. The residents had asked me, they didn't actually ask me, they told me that the school committee had authorized payment to the bus company, which is, I don't know if it's quarterly. I'm not sure how you do the billing for the bus companies. But what they had said to me was that the school committee authorized the payment to the
a bus company, even though the buses weren't running, but they just wanted to pay them anyway, so they wouldn't lose their jobs. Does that sound familiar?
No, I mean, the bus, as you know, the bus company, they're in contract with the bus company. I could go back and tell you, you know, we do have to pay. They wouldn't have gotten paid the typical, because they weren't running the buses, right? So based on the contract, you would, any district would be responsible for certain costs, but it would not be full cost. It would be depending on what the contract was stated. And I think next year we're up for a new contract with the busing company. So I'm sure there's a lot of conversation around, not just in our district, but in many districts, about what that looks like as we think post-pandemic and during the pandemic.
Yeah, Barry had a while back, obviously, had said at one of the meetings that there's a set amount that the school pays per bus run. Sound about right?
There is yeah, there always is, because it's based on whatever the contract, and I don't have it off the top of my head, so I apologize. But typically the bus contract will tell you, you know, if you need additional buses, if you have to add buses, what the overall cost would be. But again, every district would have received savings simply by not having the buses on the road.
All right. Well, thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah, Ms. Picard, it's Council President Frank. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Just a couple quick things. Sharon and Sylvia brought up the transportation. I was just curious if that was causing a reduction in the budget for transportation, but I guess it sounds like it is minimally, right? It's not as much of a savings as I thought it would be.
No, right. You'll get some savings by not moving the buses at all, but right. The issue is, you know, technically right now, we're not even running buses at capacity. So you're using, while we're using the same number of buses, we're not filling them because we can't, not, you know, per the guidance. Right. And I think that's where there, like I said, if everybody that wanted to come back needed transportation, it would require us to add 3 additional buses, which may not be an option, which is why I've asked the governor for additional funding or opportunities for that funding, as well as it could really push us into rethinking what the plan is at the high school level and grades actually 6 through 12, because by WIDE's requirement, we are required to have in-person learning every day for K through 5.
Okay. And in the spring, do you anticipate the golf team playing?
I would think that as the golf, because it's a sport that it's currently being played by adults right now, it would be very likely to see a sport like golf be played based on the current guidance. All right.
And then lastly, just one quick comment. There's a young person in my neighborhood that has an IEP, and I was talking to the mom. This is going back some months ago, and with the virtual learning, she in fact is learning a lot about how to educate or teach her son certain things by just being a part of that virtual instruction. So, what you might think would be an issue, having someone with an IEP, studying virtually, turns out to be actually a blessing in some respects, that the parents get to see firsthand what the instructors and how they view it, how they teach, how they, handle issues, and it's actually made the household a better household. So I just wanted to pass that along. It's a very positive conversation, and I wanted to just let you know that that's a very good news and very positive for that situation. So
thank you for sharing that. Always nice to hear things like that.
Yep. Okay. Anyone else? Oh yeah, Barbara, go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up on the transportation, because the one place I think that you may find savings is, of course, in the sports, the buses taking kids to and from the different games and the different places. And I'm sure you'll be taking a look at that in the, when you start discussing the new budget. Because I think that is a place that savings can be found on transportation. How you have to take care of. I'm not asking you to, tell me how much or what's happening, but that's the only place I can see that you have consistent places to save money, and only because there are no games, and so they're not taking the kids anywhere. I also, I also have to say, my neighborhood is full of children And all of them seem to be happy and pleasant, and the parents seem to be quite content that everything is working and they can send their kids to school, which is very important when you've got two worker families. So I'm glad you've opened. I'm glad you're doing it as safely as possible. And thank you for joining Charahoe, and I hope you'll enjoy it.
Thank you so much. I have been enjoying it. It's definitely an eventful time, but I'll be honest with you, as a new superintendent, we're all dealing with the same pandemic, and no one has been a superintendent in a pandemic like this. So we're learning together, which makes it another opportunity for me to not only learn with my colleagues, but also really think about Charahoe and with a neutral eye, really think about what the guidance is so I can put my lens on it. But like you said, with the athletes, we also have changed some of the policies around busing. For example, in the past, parents wouldn't pick up or drop off during a sporting event. In essence, it was about, being a team, being together. But because of the contact tracing and the ability to want less kids on the bus, parents have those options. And you're right, we're not traveling as much. And all games are happening on one day. So they're coming to us, or we're going to one place as opposed to several teams going throughout the region. So there definitely should be some savings around athletic busing.
Okay. Anyone else for Superintendent Picard? Okay. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you coming and speaking to us tonight. And hopefully everyone got some direction as to what she's doing and not doing and what all that good stuff. But yeah, we appreciate your efforts, and thanks for keeping the kids safe with no COVID cases. That's pretty remarkable.
That's amazing.
So keep up the good work, and welcome, please.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it again. And please feel free to reach out anytime if there's a question that you hear or something you hear in the town. I'm always available. Happy to be a part of the community and be collaborative within each one of the towns.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
All right. You too. Take care.
Thank you. Yep. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Next up, consent agenda. Approve October 13th, 2020 special town council meeting and remote minutes. September 28th, 2020 special town council meeting remote minutes. October 5th, 2020 town council meeting remote minutes. Accept the September 21st, 2020 transcript as a record of the decision regarding Centrica Serenzia. Accept the September 21st, 2020 transcript as the record of the decision regarding Centrica Fothergill. Accept the following monthly financial activity report. Town clerk. Approve the abatements for the tax exempt property and for a condition adjustment submitted by the tax assessor. Okay.
Motion to approve. Yeah, amazing.
Wow.
I know. We're all fine. Motion to approve consent agenda. A miracle.
Yeah.
Seconded.
Okay. Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Next up on the new business, there's one item, discuss and consider setting a hearing date for an amendment to the Hope Valley Waterline Distribution System, Chapter 250, introduced and sponsored by Councilor Thompson. Sylvia.
Yes, this is something that, it's one of those things you mean to get to and finally did. But what I'm suggesting is that we set a hearing date, and I'll explain what it is. But and I'm thinking that to give the council time, the new council time to look this over, perhaps the first meeting in February, something like that, gives them time. And of course, I would provide Lisa with a packet of information. There's an environmental review that was done back when we did the water line and other documentation as to why it's important to look at the ordinance, the Hope Valley Waterline Ordinance. And the reason that I'm asking that this be looked at, and specifically as I wrote the amendment would read, every property within the district may not increase development beyond the lot's current Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management approved on-site wastewater management or treatment system. There's been a lot of environmental information to support that. And also as to why. And specifically, when you bring a water line into an area and provide public water, there's always a pressure to increase development. And the state of Rhode Island, when we did the water line, there were a great many things that they wanted us to do before they'd give us funding, from the Division of Planning, wastewater, the Water Resources Board, DEM. Oh, there was and even some of the local environmental groups. But there was an intergovernmental review process, and there was a notice of determination. It was back in 1990. And there were specific recommendations to look at this, just the waterline district, not all of Hope Valley, but that it is in a floodplain. It's an environmentally sensitive area. When you're bringing in water from another source, which is another town, you're now adding water into an area that's already has high water tables and failed septic systems. So I will, so that's just basically what it's all about. But I will provide Lisa with documentation, put together a little packet. And so unless Lisa's got a different idea, I'm just suggesting that perhaps we could postpone it till the first meeting in February, gives the council time to come together. And because this would Lisa's office would be sending out notices to every individual that is in the Hope Valley waterline to let them know that there would be a hearing, so that they could come to that hearing and say yay or nay or whatever their concerns may be. So does that sound good?
I think that sounds valid, and I'm very glad you brought it up, because generally when a water line goes in, there's also often a septic line, which of course we don't have in Hope Valley. It's all individual septics. So I do think that's something to take a look at, increasing development when you cannot increase the land's ability to absorb is going to be a problem. So I think February makes good sense.
Sound good, Scott? The meeting, like the first meeting in February for a
That
hearing
would
date?
sound well, and I will say that the water line has been Sylvia K. Thompson's baby for a long, long time, and she stayed on top of it. And there's no council member that I can think of that knows more about the water line than Sylvia Thompson. And she is a good resource on anybody that wants to know anything about the Hope Valley water line.
That is absolutely correct.
Thank you.
Bar none.
Does that sound good, Lisa?
Sure, that's
Okay.
fine. It makes sense the next town council would deal with it anyway. It would make sense to allow them to come up to par with what it is that your intention is and the reasons behind it. So what I would want to clarify is that you wanted it to be scheduled on the first council meeting in February before them to set the hearing date then.
No, what I'm suggesting is that we set the hearing date tonight, and that would be the
For
first. Yeah, first meeting in February, unless maybe you'd like to even kick it out a little longer to the second meeting.
Also, I think
I don't have a calendar
Hold on one
with me that.
second.
Yeah, the
pushes
new
it out.
February 1st is the first Monday. February 15th is the third Monday.
It's also something I think she's correct to send it out to February, but it's also one of those where the town council at the time will probably make that determination whether they want to move it forward or move it to some other space. I think it would be a good idea for us to set it, but at the same time know that the new council can move it. I don't want to.
Yeah, we're not
Determine-
making, and we're not
determine-
making a motion. We're
Right.
just suggesting a hearing date. We'll pick the first meeting first town council meeting in February, unless the new council changes that date.
I agree.
Sharon, do you have any questions other than that?
No, that's fine. February 1st is the first Monday in February.
Yeah, thank you for the information. I didn't have a calendar that into 2021 yet.
Yep.
Okay. 2121, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. All right, that's it. I guess last up, public forum. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand, *9. Hold on. Oh,
I have a question. It's Eric Bibler.
yes, Eric.
I saw the notice for your executive session this evening, and I read the citation in the open meeting law about investigative complaint. And I just want to ask if the town council is the subject or the complainant in any investigative complaint.
Neither.
Kevin, you want to answer that?
I don't think it's either.
No, I don't. I think the agenda item speaks for itself,
Okay.
and we don't need to open the door to clues about what it was about.
Sounds fine with me.
Okay, thanks.
We have nothing to do with it. I think that's important for people to know.
Yes, it's not the town council. Correct.
Right.
None of the
But-
town council members.
No, it is none of the town council members.
And not the town council itself.
Right.
Correct.
But it was
Correct.
brought forward because it will involve the town of Hopkinton.
That's you answered my question. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Anyone else? Oh. Joe? Joe?
Good
Joe?
evening. How's everyone tonight?
Hi, Joe.
Good.
It's Joe Moreau, Old Depot Road, and this is basically for Sylvia. I just wanted to let her know that I have been listening to all of the meetings. I just have had a difficult time speaking lately, but that could be some good news for someone. But just want to make sure everyone is staying safe, and thank you. That's all I wanted to say, and I have been listening, Sylvia.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? *9? I see no hands up. Motion to adjourn?
Mr. President, I move we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you all. Have a good night.
So,
Good
bye-bye.
night. Thank you.
Night.
Thank you.